What's happening, everyone? JayShockblast here, and check it out. We've got some incredibly bad news from WB Games today, and in the grand scheme of things, maybe not as big of a shock as it should be, because we have not heard much about the game for a while. But you read the title, Wonder Woman has been canceled. This is according to Jason Schreier, who is incredible. I trust anything he says. I've met him. He's a good guy. And more importantly, probably the #1 journalist in gaming. Let's be real. Breaking: Warner Brothers is shutting down Monolith Productions, Player First Games, and WB San Diego. Warner Brothers is also canceling the Wonder Woman game. Now, there have been a lot of reports lately that this game was already in trouble, and now we know for sure it's dead. And this sucks, man. This really sucks, because it has just been a rough couple years for WB Games. If you think about it, you've had, the Mortal Kombat games have done okay and done pretty well, actually. But even they have their own drama and controversy. But they're safe, okay? But Gotham Knights, as much as I loved it, didn't do as well as it should have. Suicide Squad, we all know the story about that one. I mean, that one just tough going. Definitely some bad ideas, but Wonder Woman was not one of them. I feel like Wonder Woman was a game that a lot of people were excited for, and that really had no business suffering this fate. And Monolith has put out some really cool, Shadow of Mordor games that have done really well with the Nemesis system and all of that. And I think a lot of people are really looking forward to what they could do with the Wonder Woman game. But it's gone. And then we've got Player First Games, who had Multiversus, a game which came out hot and then just flopped. And a lot of that, I feel like, has to do with poor monetization and not listening to feedback from the players. And I understand making video games that, you have your vision, you have what you're trying to do, but man, I loved Multiversus. I mean, I've got a controller back there that they sent me. I thought it was a fun game, and I really thought it was going to be a massive success. And but oh man, the free-to-play model was just rough. I almost wonder if it would have been better if they just released a $60 game and then just had DLC. But the pricing was just rough. The battle passes were incredibly grindy. And I don't know what we were going to expect out of Wonder Woman. I mean, realistically, we might not have even been playing as Diana, I don't know. We obviously, they showed this little video I've got playing, probably the only video we'll ever see of the game. And it's just unfortunate. I don't know what WB Games San Diego does. From what I can read and find and research, they opened in 2019, but I can't find anything that they released or worked on. Even in the WB Games Wikipedia page, where it lists all the different games or studios that they have, you just can't even, there's nothing to click. It's just a blank line. Just WB Games San Diego opened in 2019. So maybe they were just a support studio. Maybe they're working on something mobile. Whatever it is, they're done. They're gone. That sucks, because we hate seeing all these closures and everything. But Monolith is crazy, because they had two, from what I understand, successful games, but we've had nothing for a while. Then you look at TT Games, they haven't even announced the next Lego game. Those Lego games used to come out twice a year. Now we're we've had one game in the last 6 years, about, roughly, which is crazy. And I really just, I love WB Games. I've met some amazing people that work there. I want their jobs to be secure. And more importantly, I want them to put out amazing games. This Wonder Woman game should have been a no-brainer. We've got news yesterday about James Gunn talking about, we're a few years away from there even being a DCU game, which is not really crazy. But I have to imagine with Mortal Kombat, they just announced the new Terminator character, the T-1000, that's coming out in March. I have to imagine once they're done there, Mortal Kombat 1 is done, and Injustice 3 is next. There's no way Injustice 3 isn't the next game, and that they might even already be deep in work on, So that, I think, will be successful. But what are we going to do in between? Rocksteady is years away from another game. You know, who knows what WB Games Montreal is doing right now, but, you know, they're in a rough spot. I just, you know, I think anybody and everybody should want WB Games to be successful. You know, yeah, okay, so a game or two that they just put out may or may not have hit the way that you wanted for you personally. That's understandable, but you shouldn't, like, write them off and, like, hate them for it. You know what I mean? You should want them to do better and put out something that you want. And more importantly, WB Games has such a rich catalog of different characters. The fact that they haven't done more to put out a console Game of Thrones game, you're sitting on the Game of Thrones IP, and I'm not walking around in a Jon Snow video game. Come on, like, what are we doing here, right? I mean, not even only that, but Lord of the Rings. You know, they've done stuff with Lord of the Rings before. I don't know if that license is gone or what the deal is there. I mean, Warner Brothers itself has such a, like, I'll tell you something with Multiversus that always bothered me. Last year they had a sponsorship with the NHL, where one of the games they had, like, Multiversus hockey, and I can't, like, unsee that. Like, Multiversus could have been a game where it wasn't just a fighting game, and I know they were fighting game veterans putting together a fighting game, but they had an opportunity to make that like Mario Party instead of Smash Brothers. Like, that could have been a ton of mini games like that hockey game, which I thought was going to be a thing. They could have like a NBA Jam style game where you're using these characters in like a basketball game. Like, there was so much opportunity there, and it sucks that game is done too. You know, and there were some questionable choices. I know people are always going to criticize, you know, like, character selection and whatnot, but, like, you don't pick characters because you think it's going to be the last one. You pick characters because you're trying to spread them out, you know? That's why, you know, you get a character that maybe not be as popular as, say, I don't know, Aquaman, which they just released now, before you finally get to Aquaman. There's plenty of DC characters they didn't do, but it's not just DC. Like, there's no Green Lantern, right? So, I don't know. There's a lot of things they could do. Wonder Woman being canceled is terrible. They've got to be safe with their next choices, okay? Injustice 3, safe. WB Games Montreal probably should be working on a Flash, Superman, or Green Lantern game, something like that. Rocksteady should be working on their next Batman game. Honestly, take it out of the Arkhamverse, start a new universe, or go Batman Beyond. I don't care. Like, but you've got to do something in your wheelhouse that's safe, that people are going to buy, because WB Games used to be one of, like, the companies that was probably keeping WB afloat. And this is crazy. So I don't know anything more than that, and I'm just flashing a bunch of Wonder Woman, like, teaser footage in the background that we saw a few years ago at the Game Awards. When they announced that game, they were trying to hire people, and I actually, when I went to WB Games Montreal, there was someone there. I can't remember her name, and I feel bad because she knew who I was, and she was wearing the Wonder Woman game t-shirt. And she's like, "Oh, you're JayShockblast, right?" And it was, sorry, Evie.
My daughter, a new threat.
It was this right here, my Lego Gonk droid. Okay, she, like, created the program for this, and she was complimenting me on my video, where I opened it because my game code was inside of it. So, you know, but I always remember that she was wearing the Wonder Woman shirt, and it was like, oh man, it just makes it feel real. And now we're like 3 years later, maybe 2 years, 2.5 years later, and it's not. So that sucks. I really, really hope that WB Games can, like, get their stuff together, because this is unfortunate. But like I said, according to Jason Schreier, Monolith being shut down, player first games, not really a big surprise. I didn't know how they were going to recover from Multiversus. And I don't know what WB San Diego did, but that is the start of things. They really need to start licensing out some of these characters too. Like, just license it out, right? Like, have other people make the games. Anyway, unfortunate. I was really looking forward to that game. But the writing seemed to be on the wall that it was struggling, and now it's gone. Anyway, I hope you did not enjoy this video because it sucked to make. It sucked to talk about. But I appreciate that you watched, and
New threat comes to us.
we'll see you hopefully with better news next time.
I must